Okay, I'd like to call the regular school committee meeting to order. Today is May 11th, 2021, and we are starting our meeting tonight at 7:47. We had a couple of subcommittee meetings and a committee of the whole to review our city budget, or our school budget, that carried over a little bit. Pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order modifying the state's open meeting law issued March 12, 2020, the May 11, 2021 meeting of the Peabody School Committee will be held in the library of the Higgins Middle School for school committee members, superintendent, assistant superintendent, and central office administrators as requested by the superintendent. And today, as we typically do, we have a full school committee board here today, as well as our superintendent, Dr. Josh Vidala, our assistant superintendent, Dr. Chris Lord, and our school business manager, Mr. Joe Scanlon. In accordance with the governor's order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, the regular meeting of the Peabody School Committee will not allow in-person attendance to members of the public, but every effort will be made for the public to adequately access the meeting in real time via technological means. Alternative public access to this meeting will be provided in the following manner. We are being televised live on Peabody Access TV. Real-time public participation can be addressed to the Peabody School Committee utilizing Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. The application will allow users to view the meeting and make a comment during public participation. And as we have now for a while, please, if you'd like to speak, make sure you raise your hand, and Dr. Vidala can recognize you, and you can be heard during public participation. And we are also having the school committee minutes taken by our school committee recording secretary, Leanna Harris. I'd like to start the meeting. If we could all please rise for a moment of silence. Okay, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Vidala. We have two of our very best students in our school district here today, and I wanted to turn over to Dr. Vidala for an introduction. And we see our friend, our Higgins Middle School principal, Mr. Busey, as well. Dr. Vidala, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. So earlier this year, we announced our 351 ambassadors. They've been doing some amazing work, and they have an update for us. So I would like to introduce Noah and Connie to come up and please to address us. They've been doing some amazing things in the service area, and I know that Mr. Busey is here to support them. He's been very active in Project 351. But some of the incredible work of some of our best and our brightest here today. So Noah and Connie, thank you. It's good to see you again, and it's great to hear some of the wonderful things that you're doing.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So this year, back in November, we ran a food drive run through Haven for Hunger, which is a small food bank shelter in downtown Peabody, where we ran the food drive for about 2 weeks. And students from the Higgins would come in the morning, drop off their donations in the main office, and we collected them. I believe we raised over 2,000 different cans and boxes of clothes, and all for a good cause. And then, Connie, talk about the clothing drive.
So next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're running our clothing drive. We went to all the elementary schools and talked to each class about how you can donate your clothes. As a thank you for donating, we're also giving the kids Treadwell's ice cream, prepackaged, which is pretty cool. Got them all excited.
I believe we spoke to over 3,000 elementary students over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Great, well, excellent work, and I know it's a challenge every year to put forward the work for our Project 351 ambassadors, but even more so this year and last year. So I want to congratulate the two of you for really, during these difficult days, to continue with this work and doing this important work that's going to help so many. So congratulations and thank you for that. Any questions for our ambassadors? Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Thayer. Congratulations, you're doing a good job. You've been doing it all year. On your clothing drive, is it only donations through the elementary schools, or do you want any donations from the public? And if so, what are you looking for? What kind of clothes?
So we asked people to donate sizes baby to adult medium, and it could be for the public.
Okay, and would they bring them to the elementary school or bring them here to Higgins, or what would you recommend?
So we're having a kind of, we call it a drive-through, clothing drive, where we'll be here after school from 3 to 5 p.m.
Oh,
And students can pull up in their cars with their families and drop off the clothes, and they receive their ice cream right there as well. We don't have to take any names like in the past, made it much more difficult in the past. So this
Right.
year it's easy,
Yeah,
much more easier.
it's pretty nice.
okay, well, thank you. Sounds good.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Any other questions for our ambassadors? Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you, through the chair. Noah and Connie, I talked to you a little bit out in the hallway, and I do know some of the services that you've been working on personally as having a student at the Higgins, and I just want to say I'm so impressed, and I appreciate everything that you're doing, and this is something that's going to travel on with you for many years to come, and I expect to probably see you two here again doing other wonderful things, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Excellent. Yes, these two have very bright futures, and they're in a long line of tremendous students that we've had here that have been our ambassadors. So, Mr. Hockman, turn it to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was going to bring that up, Mr. Mayor. You guys are stepping into some big shoes. I'm sure you know that already. I'm sure Mr. Busey has talked to you about your predecessor ambassadors, and from what we hear, you're doing a great job. You're doing a really fantastic thing in a particularly difficult time where the people that you're helping are greater in number than probably any ambassadors before you due to COVID-19 issues, loss of employment, loss of housing, and a whole bunch of other things. So you guys are doing double the amount of work, and congratulations, and you should be proud of yourselves. Your parents should be proud of you and your families as well, and we are too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Yes, I'll turn, thank you, Mr. Hockman. Dr. Vidala?
Thank you. And, you know, they're being modest, because what they've really done is amazing. In a pandemic year, when you didn't think things were possible, they were creative, they were innovative, and they've found a way to do a clothing drive that's more efficient and has gotten more clothing than in years past. So they're really being quite modest. And, you know, I think I speak for everyone with saying how proud we are of you. I think what's equally as important as the amount of people you're impacting with the clothing drive and with the food drive is the number of students you're inspiring. By working with the elementary students, they look up to you, they talk about you when you leave, and you're inspiring them to try to be a 351 ambassador too. So you should really be proud of yourself, and we're very proud of the work that you've done. So thank you so much.
That's
Thanks.
very kind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you both. Excellent. All right. Yeah, let's do a quick photo. Okay, we will go back to our agenda. We have minutes from the April 27th, 2021 regular school committee meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Great, you've heard the motion for approval of the April 27, 2021 regular school committee meeting. That motion was made by Mr. Arnottis, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Okay, terrific. And now we'll go to, the next item is approval of bills. We have a couple of warrants. Mrs. Carpenter, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant A, number 4758, dated May 11th, 2021, in the amount of $2,984,448.05, subject to audit.
Second.
Great, thank you. You've heard the motion for approval of warrant number 4758. Motion was made by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Olympio. Roll call on the motion, please.
Yes.
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 I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant B, number 4760, dated May 11th, 2021, in in the amount of $465,869.76, subject to audit.
Second.
Heard the motion for approval of warrant number 4760. Motion was made by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Olympio. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you,
Thank-
that is all.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Item 4, continued business. We have one item, Weld School MSBA project update. Any update for us today, Mrs. Dunn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Welch School Building Committee approved the recommendation of the Construction Management Subcommittee and requested that the mayor enter into negotiations with Consigli Construction Company to serve as our construction manager at risk on the Welch School project. There were 4 companies. We interviewed all 4, evaluated them on really very specific points of their presentations, of their materials, their experience, their expertise. And because this is truly a really complicated project, we ended up making the decision that we wanted to go with Consigli because they have done projects like this in the past. They have a very good track record. They have worked in occupied buildings. They have a great safety record. They had a lot of really good points that they brought forward in their presentation. So the subcommittee recommended them. The full committee approved that recommendation, and actually, the mayor met with Consigli on Friday, to begin the process of negotiating the contract with them, and they have also already begun working with Durham Whittier and with Danisco Design to really start getting into the meat of this project. They are really understanding of our aggressive schedule. So we have a really vigorous calendar ahead of us. A lot of things, the work is actually accelerating now. And there will be weekly meetings of the owners, project manager, the architects, and the city going through things on a weekly basis to make sure that everybody's staying on top of things. They have to coordinate with Dr. Vidala and Mrs. Massa about not just the construction, but the impact on the day-to-day operation of the Welch. It's going to be very, very precise. A lot of work goes into the preliminary work before they'll even put a shovel in the ground. So it's a big step, and it's nice to see it happen.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn, for that report. Any questions? Okay. Next item, item 5, is our superintendent's report. Dr. Vidala, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so we have a number of items, but a rather quick superintendent's report today. So the first one is approval of the school calendar. We have a proposed school calendar for school year 2020, school year 2021-22, where our teachers would report on August 24th. The first day of school would be August 30th, and then for kindergarten and pre-K, we would start on September 8th. The 6th and the 7th would be days off for Labor Day and Yom Kippur, and the last day of school with no snow days will be June 15th. So there is a copy in your packet. We did bring this up in March, and so it's tightened up some things around meeting dates and early release days and things like that. But overall, the school calendar has not changed since the March proposal, and we would look for a vote of the school committee and entertain a motion to accept the calendar as presented tonight.
Any questions on the calendar? I have one. Oh, did you? I'll wait. Mr. Hockman.
Oh, no, Ms. Carpenter. Please.
Thank you. I think I ask this every time the calendar comes up. Did you meet and work with the union regarding the PD days?
Yes.
The beginning and the ending days, the snow days, those type of things. And I do just want to mention while I'm talking about the union that I do believe we have a new union president. Eric Blake, I believe, is the new union president. Is that correct, Dr.
Yes,
Blake?
effective June 1st. July 1st. Excuse me.
Effective July 1st.
July 1st.
I'd like to say congratulations, and I believe that I speak for everyone on the committee when we say we're looking forward to working with him. and we will be in touch soon. And I have no other questions about the calendar.
Just quickly, through the chair of the calendar, Marge Macarelli, did she review the calendar? Then I'm good. Thank you. And thank you to Marge and the whole central office staff, because they're on top of things. Thank you.
Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Carpenter. And I did just want to point out that many of the items within the calendar, including the start date, are contractual. We need to honor our collective bargaining agreement, and start of school is one of the factors that determines the start of school is when Labor Day falls out. And I know some people may not be too terribly pleased with the start of school for the next academic year in August, but it's just something that we are obligated to do, and it works out that we get out a little bit earlier in June, so it kind of works itself out, but just wanted to point that out.
Any other questions on the calendar? We do need a vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 calendar. Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Arnota, seconded by Mr. Olympio, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio? Yes. Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin Dunn?
Yes.
And Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Thank you, that carries.
Okay. The next item is school choice. So, as you know, Mass General Law assumes or presumes that all districts will participate in school choice by allowing non-resident students to attend. Each city or town shall enroll non-resident students into the district of their choice, provided that the district has seats available. So I'd like to bring this forward. We do not need a vote as long as we're continuing. We would have a vote if we're not going to allow school choice. I believe it's the recommendation that we would continue school choice, but I wanted to bring it up, and we could publicly have a discussion about continuing with our school choice.
Mr. Hockman?
Beat you to it this time, Ms. Carpenter. Through you to Mr. Scanlon. Mr. Scanlon? The budget overview that we participated in earlier tonight, did it have an expectation in there for an offset for school choice tuition in?
The health insurance.
Excuse me, Mr. Scanlon, can you press the button the audience can't hear? The one with the little person on it, and just leave it, just press that. Yep. Yeah, I need just, thank you.
So it is anticipated, yes.
Again, through the chair to Mr. Scanlon. So if we were to change, the students that are already here on school choice are here. Whatever we do tonight isn't going to impact that. But if we change course and vote to stop school choice, you're saying it won't have any impact on the budget that you've developed?
Well, there's no immediate assumption that additional students would come in, but once decisions are made and students are allowed to come in, whether it's by grade, by placement, we would be receiving notification from the state. And then subsequently, the following year, we would receive payment.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I just wanted to understand what fiscal impact we would realize if we were to make a decision different from where we presently are.
Mr. Amico?
Thank you. Through the chair to Business Manager Scanlon. What is the dollar amount that we've received hypothetically over the last couple of years, an average, if you could, please?
There's an average in our file. We receive payments for students with specific needs, so those dollar amounts can vary, but on average, it's $5,100 per student.
And through the chair, what would a total amount be, hypothetically, or an average over the last couple of years, total?
In the last 5 years, it has gone from, 550,000 per year to currently low 400,000.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. Through the-
I have a question, Mr. Scanlon. The receiving amount, do they balance what we pay out and what we receive in regards to school choice?
Well, again, the dollar amount is determined by the state, based on funding similar to circuit breaker and those. So it's not anything that we fill out any request for. We have to submit a form for students with special needs like we do for circuit breaker, and then otherwise we're just notified that this student is coming in from Revere and will receive, $5,100.
Thank you. Dr. Vidala, do you have a number of how many students we send out and how many students come in?
We do receive those numbers from the state, and I believe typically on any given year, we're about even. So sometimes it's a wash. There's a number of kids that go out, and I believe the number coming in is around 173 or somewhere. So it's pretty close, but we do have those student claim forms, so we can get the exact numbers for you and bring that up at the next budget meeting.
I guess my question is, do you feel any burden by continuing the program?
No, I think it's good the way it is. I think we should continue the program. It does allow for our teachers to bring students, their children into the district, and there is a benefit, I believe, to it.
Thank you. Anyone else on this? And you said we do not have to vote unless we're going to change?
Correct.
Mr. Amico?
Thank you. Through the chair, just a clarifying question about last year. Did we put any restrictions on, and it's based on enrollment if there's space, correct? And we found that the Higgins School last year was a lot of our buildings are at capacity, so that's at the discretion of the superintendent, correct?
Correct, yeah. We can deny someone to come in at 6th grade if the class is large. However, if, we can take someone at kindergarten. Many districts limit it to K-2 or where they have space, so it's 100% based on if there's a seat available.
Great, thank you.
Okay, the next item is open enrollment, not to be confused with school choice. So open enrollment is when a student who lives in Peabody and has a neighborhood elementary school and would like to attend a different neighborhood elementary school. So we will be accepting open enrollment applications again this year, beginning on June 1st. And it's for K-5 students. Permission is granted only if there is sufficient room. Transportation must be provided by the parent. And it's only guaranteed for 1 year, and they must reapply. So we'll be opening June 1st for open enrollment, and that will be good through June 18th. And then we'll close the open enrollment period and provide families with our decision sometime in June. As you recall, last year, we approved somewhere around 200-plus students, and we had to deny about 36 due to enrollment. So overall, we did accept over 90%. Okay, and I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Lord, who's going to recap our Teacher Appreciation Week, which was last week, and we really had some great things going on in the buildings.
Thanks, Dr. Vidal. I will say it was a wonderful week to be a teacher in Peabody. There was all kinds of stuff that was going on in the buildings. Food was the biggest item, chocolate and snacks, goodie bags. There was a candy buffet here at the Higgins, I believe, and there was pizza and chicken tenders. I mean, I hope our teachers are still healthy after last week's food event. There were themes in every building every day of the week, and I just touched on a few of them. The Superhero Day with a super luncheon. Throw me a rope on that one. May the 4th be with you. There were some wonderful connections with Star Wars. The high school did that one. Cinco de Mayo was last Wednesday, and Nacho Average Teacher. I mean, there's really clever stuff. I'm just very impressed with this. Red Sox Day last Thursday, and of course, Ella's Army Pajama Day, district-wide on Friday. The cards of appreciation for all the staff, and it was everywhere. It was just a lot of love. It was a wonderful event for everyone. I think that the teachers really enjoyed it. A lot of fun for people. And the PTOs were at the heart of it. There was some wonderful, wonderful things that they all did. And I've maybe touched on 8 or 10% of what happened So I hope I've done a little bit of justice there, but I did want to celebrate that event. It was really a special week for our teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Lord. I would like to add that Teacher Appreciation Week, I think, should be every week, especially this year was really tough on a lot of our staff, and I know, the PTOs enjoy doing those type of things for our teachers, and I just want to say thank you to all the teachers out there and all the staff, and honor of Teacher Appreciation Week. I'd like to thank them all, and thank the PTOs for stepping up and organizing those.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter, and thank you, Dr. Lord. We can't thank our teachers enough, especially after this year. They've done an incredible job, really risen to the occasion, and I think, we're seeing it in our schools now that we're fully in person. Really just the celebration that we've had and the joy that the students bring, and really at the heart of it is those relationships with their teachers. So we have two more items that are rather exciting. So each year, up to last year, we had done a science fair in grade 4, and Peabody Municipal Light Plant had partnered with us to do a science fair, and this year, with the return to school and the crunched amount of time that we had towards the end, we just didn't have time for the teachers to work with the kids in order to really do a comprehensive science fair project. They really work all year long on that. And so Dr. Lord and Peabody Municipal Light Plant tried to brainstorm on what would be a good thing to do because they wanted to use the funding that they had allocated for the science fair and give it back to the students. So they identified these solar kits and they purchased them. So because the 5th grade didn't get a science fair last year and the 4th grade didn't get one this year, they purchased these solar kits for our 4th and 5th graders this year, and they've been delivered to the schools, and the kids are going to start working on them towards the end of the year and into June. And it's really exciting. They have a do-it-yourself experiment, and the kids learn how to make electrical currents and solar circuits, and there's a little radio in there that they figure out how to do a circuit for the radio and use solar power in order to make it work, and they have a little lamp there that they can light up using solar power. So the light plant was really interested in this, and they thought it was a great way to give back to the kids. So we're really excited about the work that they've done, and what a great partner the light plant has been for us. So just wanted to publicly thank them, and our kids are really excited about these solar kits. If we have any extras lying around, we'll bring them to a school committee meeting, so you can use them. And our final piece is last Wednesday, May 5th, Science for Scientists came to the West School, and they've been a partner with the West for a couple of years. And for those of you who don't know about Science from Scientists, they're a nonprofit organization, and their goal is to improve STEM literacy and really inspire kids to get into the STEM field. And what they do is they send actual scientists to schools, and they do hands-on labs with the kids, and they co-teach. And so our teachers get a benefit of it because they learn some new labs and they get these materials, and our kids are just exposed to some really great topics. And so last Wednesday, the Lieutenant Governor joined us virtually, and she was really impressed. You see the little picture of Lieutenant Governor Polito, and the kids did this great science lab where they took these yellow beads and they put them on a grid, and they said, okay, these are all the people. And they took one red bead and they put it out, and they said, now if this person had an infectious disease and these people were around them in their household, you replace the yellow beads with the red beads, and then you put it back in, you shake it up, and you dump it out again, and you see how disease can spread. So it was really interesting. And then they had some blue beads, and those were the people who were vaccinated. And so they weren't going to get infected. So they did this really great lab, and the kids graphed all the results. And it was really, really interesting. And it was nice to see the Lieutenant Governor see the work that we're doing and the fact that we're in person in Peabody. And she was very impressed. We had a chance to debrief with her and talk about funding from the state level for nonprofits like Science for Scientists that really develop great partnerships in the schools. And so then we had an opportunity to talk about, we're currently in the West in Carroll Elementary Schools, and they come once a week to a classroom and provide that instruction, and they would really like to expand this partnership with Peabody. And so we're in talks right now about expanding this. But this is a great STEM partnership, and I just wanted to bring this to the forefront, some of the great things happening in our schools, and the fact that the Lieutenant Governor came. She visited us virtually, and we told her that we're in person, and that we would love to have her come in person when she feels comfortable. So we're excited about that, but she was really impressed with our students and with the work that we're doing. So that concludes the superintendent's report. I know that there were some questions from some committee members about our partnership with Essex Tech, and then that will be on the next agenda, and I'll have some data to share with you around the Essex Tech partnership as well. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vidal. Any questions for our superintendent? All right, thank you. Next item, public participation. Anyone lined up that would like to speak? Dr. Vidal?
Seeing none tonight.
Okay. We do have a couple of written communications, item number 7 on our agenda. And the first one is the Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn MASC nomination forms. Any thoughts or comments on nomination form to be received? We can maybe hold that to the next, or if anybody would like to submit something for the next meeting, we can bring it at that time. And we also have Peabody City Council motion P209-21 regarding school polling locations. Any comments or questions on that? Mrs. Dunn, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reading through the motions from the City Council, I just wanted to make sure that this is going to work with each of those schools. So I would just ask that if it hasn't been done already, that it be referred to Dr. Vidal so he can meet with the principals to make sure that, that is going to be convenient for the schools, especially the primary day. Election day is a bit different because it's a professional development day, but primary day is the one that I always get concerned about, if you could ask him.
Yes, absolutely. I did attend that meeting of the City Council. The election registrars were there, and they wanted to have a preliminary discussion just to kind of lock in or get everybody's opinion as to how it went last year when we did narrow or limit the voting locations, and that was done because of COVID, because there are certain places where we can't have elections because of COVID requirements. So, yes, I believe that they're going to be setting up another meeting and inviting Dr. Vidal, his team, the school committee, to get into this discussion, because I know on Election Day we're closed, but on primary day, and it looks like we're going to have at least one primary in the city. So we have to get into that discussion and the impact on the schools. So we'll do that, Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the third written communication is a communication from, I'm sorry, Mrs. Carpenter. I'll turn it to you.
That's okay, thank you. I did have similar concerns as Mrs. Dunn, but in addition to that, is the health department involved in regards to COVID and how that's going to work with that many people in a building and what those restrictions will look like and the children that are in the building that day? So I'd like to have that addressed at that meeting as well.
Yes, you're 100% right. We will make sure Sharon Cameron and her team will play a major role in this.
Great, thank you. I think Mr. Hockman was
Yep.
over.
Thank you. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, another piece that I'd like to add to that is special elections, which is something that we don't get a lot of notice of. We would have already had our calendar. For most special elections, we would already have passed the calendar and had it in place. And I think, the concerns that we're all expressing are that while presently we use Election Day as a professional development day, to impact the school calendar beyond that might not be something that we find terribly advantageous. I agree with you philosophically and the Election Commission that the reduction in the number of polling places is probably a good thing for a lot of reasons. But I think we just all need to have a little more of a conversation in those areas.
I agree. I think they're looking at it year to year, depending on how things go. I think they wanted to try to make an early decision or put themselves in a certain direction for this year. But yeah, I think there'll be many discussions to come as to how we're going to do our elections moving forward. Great, all good points. So that will be received, and more communication will be forthcoming. And the last written communication is communication from the Italian Community Center of Greater Lynn regarding the annual scholarship.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to receive all 3 communications.
Okay, Great. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. You've heard the motion to receive the 3 written communications on this evening's agenda, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. All in favor? That's a vote. Okay. Next is subcommittee reports. And let's go Education Subcommittee, Mr. Amico.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Okay. Finance, Mrs. Carpenter.
Nothing to report.
School Safety, Mr. Olympio.
Nothing to report.
Athletics and Wellness, Mr. Arnottis.
Nothing new to report.
Quality and Standards, Mrs. Dunn.
Nothing to report.
Parent and Student Advisory Boards.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Building and Grounds,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hockman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have an opportunity to meet tonight, and we do have one action item that I'll bring up. But before I do that, I wanted to recognize and commend all of the people who've worked around the city to beautify and improve playgrounds, particularly at the Burke School, where Aggregate Industries, I believe, this past weekend undertook some cleanup and improvements at the Burke Playground that was led by DeStefano Landscaping, and then also at the Brown School. They've been working for a long, long time on the Randy Lemminger Playground. They're putting some finishing touches on that. I think probably as we speak, as that playground is opening tomorrow. And I just wanted to thank a few people in particular. Sandy De Silva has been a real, leader in that project. Brian Grant, from our Parks and Forestry Department, the Brown PTO, and the whole host of other people. If I listed them all, we'd be here for several hours. So those are 2 great things that occurred at our local schools, and we're seeing the results of that now. So, and I believe that there's also a beautification project that will take place. Also, I believe DeStefano Landscaping is involved up at the high school in the Barbudo Memorial area. And that's after the Performing Arts Department performs Wizard of Oz, I believe, this weekend in that area. So I encourage everyone to go see the Wizard of Oz as well. So in addition to that, during our meeting, we did discuss 2 statements of interest that the subcommittee is reporting out favorably. We're asking for a statement of interest to be submitted to the MSBA in the core development project or program for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, as well as the Center Elementary School. I don't know if we want to take up that as take those up on a vote at this meeting or put them on the the agenda for our next meeting.
I would propose we put it on the, as an item for the next agenda, just to make sure we have the appropriate language for those motions. I think it was an important meeting today, and, but I think that should be the next step. We have to submit the statement of interest to the MSBA on or before June 25th, and I think we'll have plenty of time to make sure that that language is correct. Okay?
And that concludes my report then, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. All right, Special Education Parent Advisory Board, Mr. Olympio.
Nothing to report.
City Council Legislative Delegation, Mr. Arnottis.
Nothing new to report.
All right, and the Redistricting Ad Hoc Subcommittee, Mr. Hockman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had an opportunity to meet last night here at the Higgins, and we're still working through a whole bunch of iterations and thoughts and ideas on that. We will meet again, I believe it is Monday, June 7th, here at the Higgins, and then I think after that meeting, we're going to recess that subcommittee for the summer to give everyone an opportunity to enjoy the summer this year that we didn't have last year. But we will have one more report in the first June meeting.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Okay, any new business before we move to adjourn? Mr. Arnottis?
Sure, just a thought, and feel free if we want to save this for 2 weeks from now. But I know we still have in our agenda not allowing anyone in person to our meetings. And I think it's time we probably change that, or at least remove it. I know we've kind of danced around that a little bit, but I do think it's time. As we get into budget season, I know we have folks who tend to come and see us. So it's just a discussion point. I'm happy to hold that if you want to, but I do think it's worth talking about.
Yes, the City Council is having their first public meeting where people can come to City Hall on Thursday, this Thursday, and certainly we can leave it up to the will of the committee. I'd be ready to open it up for meetings. Mr. Amico?
Through the chair, and I agree with Mr. Arnottis. I think I would be okay with whatever the state regs are on it, to allow it to open up, for our meetings. And on that thought as well, I've heard from a few athletic parents who have mentioned, opening up further at our athletic venues, especially where they're all outside, and also contacting our opponents to see if they'd be willing to increase attendance as well. So maybe we can talk to Mr. Bua through that. But I agree with Mr. Arnottis. I think, we should be open, and I think we should probably also offer the Zoom as well for people who can't make it or don't feel safe enough to come here. But I think it's time to open up.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion, Mr. Miko, about still providing the Zoom. Mrs. Dunn?
Would you folks like to take a vote tonight so that our next meeting could be open to the public? I just jotted something down, but I'd like to make a motion that we open our school committee meetings to the public in accordance with the state regulations following the guidance of the CDC and the Peabody Health Department.
Second?
Heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Any thoughts or comments on the motion? Mrs. Dunn?
I had spoken with Sharon Cameron previously, before our last meeting, and she had told me that we are governed by the indoor gathering regulations. And basically, I know that some of those change from time to time. That's why I've kind of worded this without any specifics. But I believe that if we allow people to come in accordance to whatever that day's rules are, we know from past where it changed every hour. So that this might allow us to be able to let people attend our meeting. They would have to keep distances. We would be able to handle it at the next meeting, I believe. I really do. And I think that if we need some further guidance, I know Sharon Cameron would be available. She's very, very responsive and has been wonderful throughout the whole pandemic. So this would give us that capability for the next meeting.
Any other comments on the motion? Mr. Hockman?
Just whimsically, with the throngs of people that attend our meetings, I hope that we can reopen the concession stand and the souvenir shop, and that might give us some budget relief.
I love using the word whimsically. That's great. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 All right, excellent. I think that's great news. So that'll be for the next meeting is Tuesday, May 25th. That's the next regular school committee meeting. And I will be reaching out to Marge Macarelli to set up the finance committee meeting for very likely next Tuesday. And that information will be going out. Before we break, Mr. Miko, then Mr. Hockman.
Sure. Through the chair to Dr. Vidala, what is the attendance currently, or what is the rule or the regs for the attendance at our outdoor events at this point?
So at this point, the capacity would be similar to it was at the football games, which I believe our stands is about 400. So I don't think we have any capacity issues at spring events. They're all outdoor. I don't think we have any limitations in terms, if we see crowds over 300 to 500, then we'll start looking at it. But I think our spring sports are safe, and the kids are doing a great job out there, and I think the parents can begin coming to the games.
And through the chair, that's the same at our away games as well?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you. Just two things I'd like to announce publicly. One is that this month, Shaw's Supermarket is sponsoring a fundraiser for the Peabody Education Foundation. They're selling reusable bags, I believe for $2.50 per bag, and $1 of that goes to the Peabody Education Foundation. So it's pretty significant. It's 40% of the cost of the bag. Comes right back to the Peabody Ed Foundation, who does so many wonderful things district-wide. And I think Dr. Lord sent an email with a flyer to all the staff. So hopefully the staff can spread that out and we can push it on social media and everything else. And the last thing I'd like to bring up is Maria Champany over at the West has really taken a leadership role with the Healing Garden up at Brooksby Farm on behalf of Ms. Murtagh, Ms. Maniatis, and the student that passed away during a very, very brief period of time, difficult period of time for this school district. And so they're selling bricks for that Healing Garden. I think they're $100 a brick. And if you are interested in purchasing a brick for that garden, please reach out to Maria Champany. She works over at the West Memorial School. And I believe the deadline for purchasing bricks is this Friday. So there is some urgency to it, and perhaps we can, I think we've already sent the communication out, if we can send another one out.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Two great announcements. Okay, with that, motion to adjourn. Thank you for a very good meeting, and have a good night, everyone.